Welcome back to Why We Nurse. I'm your host, Serena Tobar, and today we're talking about growth, grit, and leadership. I'm joined by Amanda, a nurse who began their career in the fast paced world of the emergency room and has since stepped into a leadership role, guiding teams, shaping culture, and supporting nurses across the organization. In this episode, we'll explore what it takes to lead with heart, how ER experience shapes leadership style, and the lessons learned along the way. Welcome, Amanda. We're so glad to have you here.
Hi, welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So let's start with your roots. Drew you to the emergency nursing, and what was your experience like in the ER?
Oh, goodness. So when I first started like nursing school and everything, I had no idea what specialty I wanted to go into or anything. Everything terrified me. And so we went to clinicals and our level 3, once we got to there, we started doing ICU and emergency room. And I remember being so terrified. I didn't sleep the night before. It was crazy. We went to the emergency room, and from the first 5 minutes I was there, I was like, this is where I want to be. I liked the super sick. I liked the fast pace, the chaos, the organized chaos, as we called it. And so that's kind of how I ended up in emergency nursing.
Wow, that kind of sounds a little bit like how it was when I went to my rotation at the ERs. Like, I was super nervous, super excited. I was an EMT before I was a nurse, so I was already kind of drawn to that a little bit. And just seeing it from the other side, it was very interesting to me.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
So, is there a moment from your ER days that really shaped your perspective as a nurse?
So I think back on all of the memorable patients that I've had over the years, and there's those ones that you take care of them and you seem like you've almost gotten into your routine, right? You're going in, everybody's a room number, it's not a name anymore. Um you're just going through the motions and just trying to take care of as many people as you can and do the best you can. And I remember there was a lady, and her name has escaped me over the years, but this is while I was a new grad nurse in the ER. And I was so nervous and went in there to take care of her. And I was rushing out, to go check on my other patient, and she stopped me and she said, "Honey, you're doing better than you think you are. So just give yourself some grace and you got this." And I remember I carried that all through my years of nursing, and every time I felt like I was, just treading water, I think back to that patient and the confidence that she gave me, and that kind of gave me the perspective that, we're doing better than we think we are. Right.
And it just takes that one person to really touch you and really push that confidence within you and help you kind of see in yourself because somebody else saw it in you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big moment for me, a big moment for me.
What inspired you to move to leadership?
So probably not the answer that anyone's going to expect coming right now, but I don't really sugarcoat things. So I can just, honest and truly, I've had a lot of bad leadership over the years, and I wanted to take care of the people who take care of the people, do it kind of opposite of what I had experienced in some of the hospitals that I worked at, coming up in my career. I knew what I didn't want to be in a leader, but I knew once I got tired of the bedside and I knew there was something more for me, I was like, I'm going to take this leap, a leap of faith, if you will. But I knew what I didn't want to be. And so that pushes me every day to be better.
And I think we can all kind of relate to an experience with a bad leader. And so I really commend you for going out there and saying, I want to do better, right? I want to be better. I want to be this resource for my people and really change that landscape of what nursing leadership looks like. It has a really bad rap right now. And I hate that all leaders kind of get lumped into that because not all leaders are bad leaders. And sometimes we need to look at, are they a bad leader because they didn't get any development as a leader, where they kind of put into that role and said, now you're a leader, and they don't know what to do and they don't know how to be a leader. So some of that kind of goes around organizational support and mentorship. So did you have like a mentor or someone who encouraged you, who kind of helped you along the way to develop as a leader?
Not until my second leadership role. The first leadership role that I had, kind of like you were just talking about, I was kind of thrown into it. There was not a lot of guidance. There was not a lot of, this is how you do this. This is how you take care of your people. This is your do's, this is your don'ts. I didn't get that. And so my first leadership role was kind of a disaster. Looking back on it now, it was kind of bad. But in my second leadership role, my director has actually taken a lot of time to encourage, to give guidance, encourage me to do leadership classes and, little things here and there to help make me a better leader. So I have that mentor now, whereas I didn't before, so it's going better.
It makes a difference, right? I
It
mean, no
does.
matter what area of nursing you're in, when you move from the role you've become an expert in into a new role, and that includes leadership, you need development, mentorship, guidance, and being able to grow and develop is super important,
Mhm.
especially in a leader role, because now you have all of these people who are looking to you for guidance, and you have to be able to know how to do that. And that's not something we're all born with.
Yeah, it's like that meme that's kinda going around. It's like you look around for an adultier adult, and you realize that you are that adult.
Yes,
It's you now, and you're like, "Boy, we're doing this. Okay, let's see how we get through this."
I've seen that meme. There are definitely days when I'm like looking around, like, who's the adult in the room? Oh man,
Like,
that's
I
me.
need somebody, I need somebody. Oh, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me.
Yeah. How did your ER experience prepare you or challenge you as you stepped into that leadership role?
So I think the organized chaos and having to pivot on a moment's notice and just the fast pace of the ER and how it's always different yet always the same. I think that helped to prepare me for leadership because, every day is something different. There's always a different problem, a different challenge, but you still have your same underlying, things that you're doing. So, at a moment's notice, like everything can just go into a tailspin and you have to be able to pivot on, stay on your toes and be able to manage that so that your staff doesn't see that you're really in your head going, crap,
Hmm.
what do we do here? Um, and you could never show that in the ER. You always had to be one of my ER mentors had told me you have to be the duck. And that kinda stuck with me too. Ducks under the surface of the water, you see they're pedaling their little feet and they're doing all kinds of things trying to stay above the water. Above the water, well, what you see on the outside is they're just gliding. And so lots of learning to be the duck in the ER, and that has kind of helped with leadership to kind of maintain that calmness on the outside when inside you're like, "Where's the adultier adult?"
I like that. Where's the adult here? But being the duck, I think that really sticks with me. Be the duck. Yes, you're right. Because
The duck.
their little patitos, their little feet are just going and going and going and going, and they look like they're just so serene and
And
so
they're just gliding, and it's so happy,
yes,
and underneath the water, you're like,
yes.
"Yeah."
What's been the biggest shift in your mindset since you've moved from the ER into that management position?
I think the biggest mindset change has been just to see the bigger picture and the why behind most actions. I think a lot of times as the bedside nurse, you're the end user, right? Things changes come out or things happen and you just get told, here, do this, we're changing this is going to happen, this is how you do this now. And you're a lot of times you're left looking like, why? What? what happened? What this doesn't make sense. This where did this come from? And so having to think now, okay, bigger picture, why are we doing this? What's the bigger goal? What's the outcome we're looking for? And trying to focus on that has been the biggest mindset shift that I've had to make, is seeing the bigger picture and then also trying to explain that bigger picture to get the buy-in from everybody.
Yeah. And I think social media, just kind of some of the things I see, it really doesn't help because when there's not a good leader, like someone like you who's explaining the bigger picture, then you have nurses who are like, well, all my leader cares about is cauties and clapsies. But when we think about the bigger picture, and this is how I like to tell people, I'm like, hey, who likes to get a bonus? My hand is the first one to go up. Who wants to
Exactly.
get a good raise, right? When it comes time for merit raises, psh, me, I'd like a good
Everybody's
merit
like,
raise, right? Who likes to work with top of the line equipment that you don't have to constantly tag for a repair? It's not down. You
"Mhm,
don't have to try to find a workaround. Psh, me, I want to work with the good equipment, right? But if we're
mm,
giving our patients cauties and clapsies all the time, then we're going to have that issue of not having that money. When you spend all your money on cotties and clabsies, then you don't have money left for bonuses, for raises, to get the newest equipment, the latest and greatest equipment that's out there to make our jobs easier and to streamline our processes. And so sometimes when you kind of break it down like that, then they're like, oh, this is so my
yep,
manager's not just doing it just to be a meanie head, right? I don't know, lack of a better word, but they're doing it
yep,
because at the end of the day, this is going to affect me in the long run. It affects the hospital, it affects our patients, and it affects me. Sometimes you got to bring it back to them because we all know about adult learning styles, and you got to get them invested in what's in it for them. Otherwise, they don't
very
care.
much so, very much so." And break it down into ways that they can understand it like that.
Yes.
Like you were saying, like, you want a bonus, right? Because bonuses speak, or raises. It's money talks, especially in this economy, right?
Hmm.
And so when you break it down like that, they're like, the light bulb goes off and now it makes sense. You're not just saying, "Here, do this because I told you to." There is a reason behind it. It's for your benefit, even though you don't think so.
Even though you don't see it right in this moment,
Mhm.
eventually, this is something that will trickle down to you.
Right, right.
So, how would you describe your leadership style?
Oh gosh, making me think back to nursing school and all the things that I've forgotten. So I really and I can't think of the word now, the official name for it, but I'm very much giving people their autonomy, but at the same time holding them accountable for their actions. Everybody needs to be treated with respect. Everybody, in that I always tell them, stay in your professional box. And everybody kind of laughs and they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, treat everybody the way that you want to be treated. And do the things that you would expect if you were on the other side of things. Just stay in your professional box, and everything will work itself out. So that's kind of a gray explanation of my leadership style without having the formal name for it.
And I can't think of the formal name for it either, but I really like how you kind of broke it down though. Like you can have your autonomy, but you're still going to be held accountable because people don't like to be held accountable, number one, until somebody else is not being held accountable and it's messing everybody else up, right? And
Right.
so if nobody gets held accountable, then we have chaos.
Yeah.
But if we are all being able to be treated respectfully as adults, given our autonomy, able to work independently, but still saying, hey, I need you to make sure that you get XYZ done, or make sure that if you are going to take time off, that you have followed XYZ process, or else you're not going to be able to have that time off, then that is a professional, it just leads to a more professional atmosphere. Everybody wants to work in a
Exactly.
professional atmosphere. Nobody wants to work in chaos.
Exactly. And the challenge that I'm facing now, my predecessor was not much on the accountability aspect. And so this may come up later. and I may be jumping ahead, but that's one of the biggest challenges that I have right now is to get that culture of accountability established again. I just talk to them regularly. I have regular meetings with my staff, and just reinforce to them, hey, I don't want to micromanage you. I'm not going to micromanage you, but you there will be accountability for, X, Y, and Z. And so it's getting better. But it's hard, like you say, when you don't have the accountability aspect of that. It's just like everybody. It's a free for all. It's a free for all, and it doesn't lead to a very good environment at all.
No, it's very, and I've worked in a environment where it was very much, there was no real accountability. Everybody was just kind of doing what they wanted to do. And when
Hmm.
it came time to leave, I like to be very, nursing is a small world. So I like to be very professional. And so I knew I was going to be leaving the organization, and I was in an education role, and I wanted to make sure that all of my projects and all of the things that I was responsible for was handed off in a professional manner. And when I kept saying, "Who am I handing off to? Who am I handing off to?" Gave a month's notice, and it came down to like the last 2 weeks, and I'm like, "Who am I handing off to?" Well, nobody wants to do that role. But you're the leader. You should be telling somebody, "Right now in the interim, I need you to handle this until we fill this position."
Exactly.
Divide it out amongst who's left. And I know nobody wants to pick up anything extra, but it's on a temporary basis, right? And
Right.
so, but because everybody was just doing what they wanted to do the way they wanted to do it, and there was zero accountability, I ended up leaving and just leaving written processes for everything. And I don't know, who that went to, if that went to anybody, how that, but at some point I had to say that's not my responsibility anymore and move on. And coming to an organization where there is accountability, there is check-ins, there is one-to-one saying, "Hey, okay, what's been going on the last month? What have we been doing? What do you need help with?" We have weekly little quick check-ins, like everybody roundtables. What are you working on this week? What do you need help with? Is there anything that's overwhelming? Is there anything we need to pull off your plate for this week? And so that way everybody's held to the same standard. Everybody, even though they have different projects, we're always looking at making sure not one person is overwhelmed, but that the workload is spread pretty evenly, and that everybody
Mhm.
has their objectives or what they're supposed to be doing, and that we are meeting that productivity, especially when you work in a non-productive department
Mhm.
where you could be cut if things, get really bad. That's one of the
Oh,
first
yeah.
departments to go is education because it's non-productive. And so you really have to be able to show your worth and why the organization needs you. And that's even more important in this role, to have
Yeah,
that accountability. So I love that you're saying, yes, we have to be accountable and we have to create that culture of accountability.
definitely. Definitely.
So, Amanda, what do you think nurses need the most from their leaders, especially in like a high stress environment?
I think the biggest, and this may sound weird, but I think the biggest thing that the nurses need from us is honesty and transparency. I think, they as a whole, and all of the nurses that I've dealt with from since becoming a leader, they just want to know what's going on. Especially, how rumors get started and, oh, there's going to be layoffs. Oh, we're going to shut this down. They're going to cut back staffing. Oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And they need a leader that can say, okay, I hear your rumors, or I hear your concerns. Um, let's talk through this. First and foremost, that's not what's happening. Or yes, there is something coming down the line, but this is how we're going to prepare for it and how we're going to deal with it. I think that also shows them respect, that you're not just keeping things from them. And so that's the biggest thing I know, me as a leader, that I try to give to them is honesty, transparency, and knowing you support them and knowing you have their back when they bring you concerns, knowing that you're going to fight for them. You may not be able to change it. It may be something from system, or it may be a corporate thing that is you're not going to be able to change, but to know that you're taking their concerns to the people that need to hear it to support them is one of the biggest things that they need to.
And nurses know, I mean, people in general know, they know if you're not being honest with them, if you're not being transparent with them, they spot it a mile away. You're not gonna be able to
It's
get away
yeah,
with it.
it's like they can smell it.
Yes, yes, and I think just anybody, as an adult and a professional, that's what they want, transparency and honesty. Just be honest with me. And I think I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and they were, working for an organization, and the organization decided to eliminate the management position. And so they brought all the managers in. And I think it was a Monday morning, if I am remembering correctly. And they had them all come to a meeting, and they were all pink slipped at that meeting. And basically the organization was like, this is for what's best for you, and et cetera, et cetera. And they're all going, no, this is not what's best for me, because I know for a fact one of those managers had just relocated from California for that position like a month before they were pink slipped. So
No.
people know when you're not being honest, and so one of those managers that was let go was like, I could have respected if you would have said, there is some budget deficits, we have to do some restructuring, so we're going to have to let some of you go. Here's what the options are. You can reapply for XYZ positions, be honest about what the money's going to be like. She's like, I would have respected that. But for them to tell me to my face, this is what's best for me, when losing my
Yeah.
job is obviously not what's best for me, was
Yeah.
really, really something that I could not respect.
Yeah. I mean, I think even if you have to give the difficult news or, deliver a difficult message, if they can tell there's honesty behind it, then it's going to be more well received, even if it's what they don't want to hear.
Right.
But like you said, if you lie about it or you try to cover it up or, this is what's best for you. No.
Right. Like,
No.
she's just like, I'm being, you can't gaslight me. This is not what's best for me and my family.
Like, in what warped universe is me losing my job good for me? The best
Right.
thing for me? No.
Right.
No, that's not how this works.
So, can you share a story where you felt your leadership made a real difference for a nurse or even your whole team?
So while I was still in ER leadership, there was a nurse. She was very shy, very timid, but I saw potential in her. And I kind of took her under my wing, and almost every shift I would call her in my office and I was like, hey, I want you to know how good of a job you're doing. You should branch out a little bit more. Just watch me, watch how I do things. And I want you to just take a little bit of that. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, just stick with me for a little bit. And so over the months, she started to kind of come out of her shell a little bit. And she would tell me, hey, I appreciate how you're doing things. Things in the ER suck right now. They just do, but you are making it suck a little less. You're keeping the team motivated. You're out here with us. You're up to your elbows in patient care most of the time. You're out here in the trenches with us. So I actually got to talk her into becoming a charge nurse, and she was one of the better ones that we had. She told me that without my leadership and in seeing that in her, and encouraging her and pushing her, that she never would have done that ever. And um, so I kind of took a little bit of pride in that and was like, this is what we need. We need to as leaders, we have to see the potential in people and help grow them. That's what we're here for, to take care of the people who take care of the people.
I love that. I love that. Take care of the people who take care of the people. How do you stay connected to the frontline experience while managing from this higher level?
Whew. Funny you mentioned that. I was actually just kind of in the throes of it the other night. We had a couple rapid responses at the same time, and it was the same nurses patients. And so I actually got to go out there and and be a nurse again and help out during the rapid. So staying connected to the front line, I just make sure that I take at least a couple of hours of every shift, um, that I'm walking around, I'm talking to them, I'm checking on them, helping out if they need help. Um, I've had several of them come and say, "Hey, can you come start this IV for me? The charge nurse is busy. I can't get it. We don't have rapid response coverage. Can we, can you come look? I know that's not your job anymore." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I'm still a nurse. This is what we do." So I just try to stay out there, make it a point every day to have face to face time with them, not just stay in my office, but to go out there on the floor, see what they're doing and keep that connection.
That's really good because I know I've even had leaders who, were absolutely like very, very hands off. They were very, business wear. We're not going in a
Mhm.
patient's room no matter what happened. But I've
Oh, yeah.
also had leaders who were very hands on. I even had a CNO one time, and she was doing some rounds on the unit, and this lady, bless her, I had went to go get all of her medicines, and I had all these medicines in my arm, and I walk in the room, and poor thing, she's finger painting with her poo. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And so the CNO just happened to be like right there, and she heard me, and she just gowned up, and we went in there together, and we got her all cleaned up and fresh and sparkling new bed and all of that good stuff. But I mean, that's I've never had a CNO do that
No.
before or
And
after
and you
that.
have and you have so much more respect for them when
Yes.
when they do that for you, right?
Yes.
Like I've had leaders, like, going back to the beginning of the interview where I said, I knew the kind of leader that I didn't want to be. I've had those leaders like that who were in business clothes every day, and if you ask them when they actually came out there to see you, which was usually to tell you you were doing something wrong. But when they came out there, you knew not to ask them to help you with anything.
So what have you learned about yourself through this journey?
I've learned that I don't give myself much grace and that I should have more faith in myself, which is really weird to say. But, when I first got into leadership, I was like, "You'll never make it. What are you doing?" But here I am, still learning every day, but I'm making it.
Yes, and you're making a difference.
And I'm making a difference. I have staff that other leaders have said, those are your ones that you're never gonna connect with. They're here, they do their job, they go home. They don't socialize with leadership. They just don't connect, right? They're just not as involved. And I have some of those same staff that they're talking about coming into my office once a week and sitting down and talking to me for 20 minutes at a time. So I take everything as a learning experience and just try to keep treating them the way that I wanted leaders to treat me when I was in that role. And so I guess the bigger picture of what I've learned about myself is that I can still be true to myself and be a good leader.
Definitely, definitely. What advice would you give nurses who are thinking about stepping into leadership?
Follow your heart if that's what your heart is set on. Seek out a mentor. Go about things a little different than I did. Don't just blindly leap into it. Try to find a mentor or something to give you more insight, as to what area of leadership you want to go into. But if that's what your heart is set on, then absolutely do it.
What do you hope your legacy will be as a nurse leader?
My legacy, that I took good care of the people who take care of the people.
You you
That's my favorite saying. It's my favorite saying, but it's so true. I hope that people remember me as being a good leader and a fair leader that took good care of them and supported them and, overall made things better for them.
I really like that. The person who take care of the people who takes care of the people. I really like that. And that's a great legacy to leave. I think.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so much, Amanda, for being with us here today. It's important to get the insights from all points of view in nursing because there's so many avenues and so many things out there that can be negative. So I thank you for being here today and to show us that leadership doesn't have to be looked at in that negative light.
Hopefully I wasn't too much of a downer, but I think there is some bad that goes with everything, but you just have to spin it and turn it into a positive and not let it get you down. But yeah, it was great to be here. I thank you for having me on. It's good to share those stories sometimes.
Yes, I think so too. Leadership in nursing isn't just about policies and schedules, it's about people. It's about showing up, listening, and lifting others. Amanda's journey from the ER to leadership reminds us that every nurse has the potential to lead, to influence, and to create change. And that's why we nurse. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Why We Nurse. If this story inspired you, share it with a fellow nurse or leader. Follow at Why We Nurse on Instagram for updates and behind the scenes content. Got a story to share or just want to be a guest? Email me at whywenursepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, stay strong, stay compassionate, and remember why you nurse.